When it comes to Naruto characters, in particular the Uchiha clan, some of the first names that you'll ever hear, they'll be Madara Uchiha, Sasuke Uchiha, and Itachi Uchiha. Those are 9 times out of 10, they're going to be the first 3 names that you hear Naruto fans mention in that order or some variation of it. And while it's easy to say that they are all drastically different from each other, which granted, to be fair, there are key distinct differences between these 3, there are some areas where their characters overlap that are pretty subtle and overlooked, like for example with the characters of Itachi Uchiha and Madara Uchiha, which is why in today's newest Naruto Explained video, we're going to be taking a look at some of the information that will make you see the overlap to parts of Madara and Itachi's character that has been overlooked by some fans and isn't known information to many others, since this material was never animated in Naruto or Naruto Shippuden. So the information is going to be coming to us via the Naruto prologue story titled Itachi Shinen, the Story of Daylight, which covers the early years of the life of Itachi Uchiha from the last moments of the Third Ninja War, where Itachi was traumatized by his father when Fugaku took him onto the battlefield, and it goes all the way up to the moment where Itachi is about to undertake his mission to enter into the Anbu Black Ops. In the scene that we're going to be looking at, a 5-year-old Itachi, after the birth of his brother Sasuke, is driven deeply into his training. He's been training extremely hard with his father Fugaku and training on his own like a madman because the trauma is still lingering from having been taken onto the battlefield a year prior, and Itachi took his mother's words to heart that he needed to protect Sasuke. This led to Itachi realizing that, like him, his younger brother Sasuke would be expected to become a shinobi, and the idea of his younger brother being one of the shinobi in the future who gets killed while protecting the village, it pushed Itachi to train even harder. It's during this time that as Itachi continues to push himself, that unbeknownst to him, Shisui is already watching him from the shadows as he's training, taking note of how Itachi's skill level only at the age of 5 was already better than most of the adult shinobi and multiple jonin, that we get a good chunk of information that makes you realize how similar Madara and Itachi were and how it runs deeper than just their love for the brothers, though that is a part of it, who they were both made to promise to protect, and they each took that promise very seriously, but both of them went about it in different ways. So with the scene and the context finally being set, is here I'm going to begin reading the selected scenes from the story, and then we're going to come back to you guys my thoughts, and we're going to unpack everything that we just went over and tie it all together briefly. And as here I'm going to begin quoting those selected scenes. Itachi trained non-stop since the day his father had taken him to the battlefield. Just one more year until his long-awaited start at the academy. His sole objective was to hone his skills so that he could become a ninja among ninja. Why a ninja among ninja? To rid the world of fighting, of course. Itachi refused to accept his father's conception that a ninja is someone who lived amongst the killing, where the ninja arts and chakra are really only for fighting. Itachi, he didn't believe that to be the case. If you had the greatest strength, you could step in between people who are fighting and stop them. If you were a ninja more powerful than the other ninja villages at war, no ninja, however skilled they were, could ever stand against you. Itachi, if he were strong enough, he could prevent enormous fights like the last great ninja war. Nobody else would need to die. He had a goal, so his devotions, they were not difficult. Itachi looked up at the moon. Just me and Sasuke, Itachi thought. He left the sliding doors open. After stepping out with Sasuke in his arms, Sasuke began to cry. The moment he gave voice to his brother's name, something warm exploded in his heart, different from the love he felt for his mother and his father, a special, indescribable emotion. Itachi couldn't really put it into words. Faced with this creature who seemed like he could shatter if Itachi wasn't careful, something like a masculine sense of responsibility did indeed come to life inside of him. The feeling that he had to protect this tiny life at all costs. End quote. So that right there, we mixed in a couple of passages from around this scene, since they flow together in the story within the 2 to 3 pages of each, depending on where you start, but they were needed to paint a picture that was needed for this discussion. What we're seeing here is that at a young age, Itachi had already come to the conclusion of something that not even Madara Uchiha, for as wise and as cunning as he was, Madara was still unable to reach the same conclusion that Itachi did. Itachi at the age of 5, just as Hiruzen Sarutobi told us later on in Naruto volume 65 of the manga, he was already thinking like a Kage, and because he had the wisdom of a Kage, but most importantly, the innocence of a child who had not yet been fully corrupted by the ninja world, traumatized due to being on the battlefield but not yet corrupted, Itachi saw past the usage of the chakra that the descendants that Indra had left behind had started to come to view chakra as, whereas they viewed chakra as being a means of warfare. Itachi at this age was already pondering if there wasn't some other method of use for chakra that was meant to bring people closer together, and starting to believe using chakra for battle purpose was wrong in terms of the intended use of chakra, which we as the audience, we all know he is definitely correct in his thinking, and he's thinking along the lines of how the Sage's Six Paths intended for chakra to be used. Makes you wonder what happens if Itachi and Hagoromo would have met. However, this is where there are some interesting intersecting lines with Itachi and Madara, but also why I firmly believe that Itachi is greater than Madara. Both of them saw the issue of the shinobi world, a world where children, they could just be sent out to die. Especially Hiruzen sent kids out to die. Fathers, they wouldn't return home to their wives, and mothers wouldn't return home to their children. Children might get blown up. Madara and Hashirama thought that by making the Leaf Village, they could protect those young lives. Yet the funding of a village, it requires the feudal lord to bankroll the hidden Leaf Village, and the feudal lord has power over the Hokage, which is why wars eventually get fought due to the feudal lord being the one that pulls the strings. Decades later, Itachi found himself thinking that his father was wrong, that a ninja was only truly ever alive on the battlefield and was meant to die on the battlefield. Itachi saw the root of this issue, the feudal lords and the wars that they're pushing the countries into, and like Madara, despite not wanting to get more violent, he understood that the only way to feasibly stop violence during this time period was to respond to violence with immeasurable and overwhelming power that forces those in power to listen to you and bend to your will and your desire for peace. Both men were driven largely by their desires to protect their young brothers. Madara lost several during the Warring States era and finally lost his only surviving brother before he agreed to join this in the treaty to form Konoha. Itachi, from the moment he saw his brother in the hospital, the first time he held him and he spoke his name, he became concerned with a young life that he viewed as being so fragile it could shatter, eventually dying on the battlefield due to ninja conflict. And Itachi wanted to put an end to the fighting, and he was obsessed with getting strong enough that he wouldn't just be the strongest ninja in the village, but he'd be the strongest ninja in the 5 nations. The only choice to be Hokage one day. No other options, and he could begin using his position of power to force the ninja villages to rethink what they thought chakra was best suited for. The common line with he and Madara, as you see, is the perception of force as a tool. The life that we see in Boruto, Naruto Next Generations, Itachi, he was already visualizing a life like that, minus the technology, just as Madara envisioned this utopia where there would be no winners, there would be no losers, everything would be at peace. Yet both men wanted to go about getting those results in similar but different ways. Both paths, they required force, and honestly, both were unreasonable. However, one less so than the other. Madara's plan, it took away free will itself. It was completely authoritarian in how it was being executed. Itachi's plan, on the other hand, was to become so strong that his power alone could force the other villages to come together to form a treaty, because no one would dare stand against him. And when you think about it, that's kind of what we got now. Do you think the other 4 Kage are going to stand up against the Hidden Leaf Village when you got people like Naruto and Sasuke there? 2 people who could just blow up the continent if they wanted to? No, you're going to listen to them and you're going to go along with peace. In return, Itachi thought of a world where the ninja villages, they would work together instead of where they were at war with one another. He thought of a world where chakra was being used. Instead of to make new jutsu, they would find ways to make chakra to better the lives of people. He thought the villages working together would eliminate the need of a feudal lord altogether, which in turn would stop the wars between the nations, which would keep people like his younger brother Sasuke from dying. Yet the sad thing is that his ideal for the future, while some of it's come true, a lot of it's come true, at the time it required Itachi, if he wanted to make it an achievable thing, he needed to do so through force, the same way that Madara did, albeit on a different path, which is so heartbreaking because it is a reflection of the sign of the times that we're in at that point in the timeline. By this point in the timeline, it is very important to remember that you still have relics who they were either fighting in the feudal era or their disciples and their children, they're in prominent positions of power. You had people like the legendary Sannin who were born 4 years before the first Ninja War ever took place. And you have people like Fugaku who were born just a year after the first Ninja War ended, and a year before the legendary Sannin would become Genin at the age of 6, which is crazy. Both men, they had visions of peace, but the era that they were in was still too steep in the most primal of urges of human nature, which is ultimately violence. No matter how nice the person is, there's still a violent switch there. Both men, they were traumatized by war, but one acted in a more aggressive manner in Madara, and somewhere along the way he began to get swallowed up by the thrill that came from battle, seeking it out. Whereas the other one, Itachi, even at a young age, he began looking for ways to avoid fighting by seeking the quickest path possible to end the fights and having a preference to use genjutsu to end fights so as to avoid confrontation physically. With there only being a few exceptions in the life of a young Itachi that you can count on both hands where genjutsu was not a viable option. Stuff like this is why I find Itachi's character so fascinating. Because while he's not the strongest Uchiha, he's not even the third strongest Uchiha in the history of the clan. Sorry to break it to Itachi fans, those are facts. He is the one I believe that has the most complexity to his character, which this video essay on the right breaks down the complexity of Itachi's character in depth, and this video on the left very extensively breaks down every number weapon user in Kaiju number 8.